What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler Podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and today we are talking with the folks from FishLung. You haven't heard of FishLung? It is a new premium fish care that has onto the scene that has, honestly, after this conversation with them, if you're a boat owner, tournament angler, you use live bait, whatever it may be, if you're not heavily looking into this thing, you might be making a mistake because if I had a boat, I'd be getting it. That's for dang sure. Because just from these simple statistics and the growth that they've seen and the proof is there. It's really cool what they've been able to do with fish care, keeping fish alive, and some of the different studies that they've done and are planning to do. Do you guys know we always love talking about conservation and fish care on this show? So we're going to have a great show with them today. If you have not checked in this past week, we did not have a live show. I apologize for that. I've been under the weather. But we had Luke Duncan on as well. That episode dropped this morning. You guys can go check that out recently if you have not just yet. Great show with Luke Duncan. But if you guys have not, if you're Omnia Pro member, you can go and check out the exclusive huge savings that are going on rods, reels, tackle management, and so much more. If you're Omnia Pro member, you can take advantage of all these sales on top of all the different map features and everything for $50 a year. Seriously, $50 a year, and you can save way more money than that and earn a heck of a lot more. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. Let us know if you do, as well as right now there's 25% off Max Scent Little Generals and 20% off all swim jigs, all of them until October 1st. Click that link down below. Make sure you guys head over and take advantage of it. We always have a discount code as well that you can use year long to save some money on stuff, and that's Series 10. Make sure you guys check those out and enjoy the show with the folks from FishLung. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the folks from FishLung. We got Johnny Johnson, Mr. Mark Owens. Fellas, how we doing, guys?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. I think from people that can tell by the accents, I think one of us is far north, myself, and then you guys are presumably farther south than I am.
Alabama. Yeah.
Are you guys going to be okay with this whole hurricane thing? I think it's dodging you, right? It's
more we're in North Alabama, so hopefully we're safe from it.
We're on the west side of it anyway.
Yeah. Hopefully
we have
and on the coast and in Florida.
Yeah. Thankfully, I got parents and grandparents that are down in Florida, and they are just south enough where they're going to get some rain, but presumably they're in the clear for now.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of friends out in the Atlanta area, on the Panhandle, Seminole people. Thoughts go out to you guys. Get safe. Hopefully everyone's okay with this hurricane. I hate this freaking crap every year. But I did call my dad and talk some crap to him because they moved to Florida 3 years ago, and it's been nothing but hurricanes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, have you rethought the idea of moving to Florida now? But he was a wuss. He flew out to Utah to my brother, so he did shit and left my mom to handle the hurricane by herself.
That's good planning.
Yeah, that's right. Well, fellas, first time on the show, we have a little ritual here at Serious Angler that we like to, when it's your first time on the show, we got to throw it back to the very beginning of who the heck got you involved in fishing in the first place. So Johnny, I guess we'll start with you, man. And then to Mark is who the heck has installed this lifelong addiction of fishing?
My father, my dad. Man, we were not bass fishermen from early. My dad was a crappie guy, and I mean, I'm old enough that it wasn't a sport; it was a necessity to put food on the table. So that's where we started off, and of course it was just something that my dad and my brother and myself did. I was the youngest, but I can't tell you how many nights that we spent the night on Sardis Lake, and it was out of a 13-foot ski boat, little tri-hull ski boat with a 50-horse Johnson on the back, that we would go out there. We'd fish all night long. I can't tell you how many times we did that. Or we would stand on the rocks of a spillway at Sardis Dam and fish until we either caught 3 limits or was just worn slap out. So that's what started it off for me. And it wasn't until my son got a little when he got about 15, 16, he got into bass fishing and he wanted to start tournament fishing. And that's what pulled me over into the bass fishing arena. And I tried my hand at it, and I am not good at it at all. I enjoy it, but I'm not good at it. So, but I have a blast doing it when I get the opportunity. We do not get a lot of time to fish anymore. That's one of the things about the fishing industry is when you get in it to try to make a living doing it, man, you find yourself without a lot of time to enjoy the sport like you once did. So.
That is very true. And I was told that once I got my entry into the fishing industry was if you're thinking you're going to fish more, you might want to rethink that again.
Yes.
That's the truth.
It's kind of like living on the lake. People that live on the lake don't get to fish much. It's always something to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mark, what about you, man?
Same thing. My dad got me into it when I was, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. And he kind of burnt out, but I never really did burn out on it. Luckily, later in life, he picked the bug back up and did a lot of crappie fishing with me before he passed. And but he's the one that got it going anyway.
Yeah, and very similar stories. I think it's cool to always. That's why we always try to ask this when it's your first time on the show, and it's just cool to throw it back. I mean, it's cool to also see how so many universal stories there are, but also how many there's some folks where it's their very first time fishing and it's self-taught, or it's mom that took them out, or it's grandma, or it's they just one of their buddies picked up a rod at a pond one day, and then some guy at the ramp was like, "Hey, buddy, you want to go fishing?" type of deal. It's kind of cool to see the different uniqueness of the stories, but we kind of have some uniqueness to this episode, and that is with FishLung. And fish care is one that we take a lot of pride in the show, and fishing conservation. We have some great friends, Gene Gillen from Bass and Stephen Barden from MLF, but also does his own Texas Pro Lake Management, that are fisheries biologists that we love getting on the show and teaching, educating about not just conservation itself, but also fish care and how can we become better stewards of the sport, not just anglers. And when I saw your guys' brand come along, I was very intrigued. Because obviously it reads in the shirt for people that are watching, but if you're not watching, if you're listening, the shirts read FishLung Premium Fish Care on the t-shirts you guys are wearing right now.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody that is utilizes their live wells, this should be piquing your interest. And I'm really excited to talk about this today. So I guess first and foremost, before we dive into how it all works and everything, what is FishLung for the people that are tuning into this?
FishLung is a product that puts oxygen in your live well. The live well, since it was introduced by, I think it was Forrest L. Wood in, if I'm not badly mistaken, 1973. Other than the size of the live well and the size of the pumps, the live wells really have not changed a lot. And as a result, through the years, we've had a lot of advancement in our fishing technologies, but the live well just has kind of fallen behind. And there's been a lot of things that have been tried, a lot of techniques, a lot of products that have come along. But really they're just not keeping pace with what we're doing in today's modern world of fishing. So what FishLung does is it's a product, it's an oxygen generator, and it separates nitrogen out of the air that we breathe. For those that don't know, our air is roughly 21% oxygen, and pretty much the rest of it is nitrogen. There's a few other little traces of things, and the product separates those two products, oxygen and nitrogen. And when it separates that nitrogen and it holds that nitrogen in its filter systems, the oxygen passes through it, and that's what gets put into your live well. And that keeps your oxygen level high in the water in your live wells, and that allows your fish to have a significantly higher chance of survival in that captive state.
Yeah, and this is one that we seem to talk about a decent amount. And each angler, for the most part, is different in regards to their process. And we had Carl Jacobson on, and this is one thing we actually talked about. There needs to be essentially a universal standard for, like, there has to be a best option of when you put fish in a live well, this is how it should be for the best opportunity for those fish to be either go back in the lake or to live throughout the day, at least at the best possible state. And I think this is an additive to that is FishLung here. So with that, I guess for someone that is hermit angler or is boxing fish, why should they be looking at FishLung? What advantages does it bring to the table?
Well, for anything, any living species, I mean, oxygen is critical for life. I mean, that's just basic.
Right.
And when you put, you got 25 gallons, 30 gallons of water in a live well, and most of the boat manufacturers, when they say that a live well will hold 30 gallons, that's if you measure it, a lot of times they won't quite get to that quantity because you got your overflows and everything else. So when you put, say, 20 pounds of fish in a live well, you got to think about the water that's displaced by that weight of fish, number one. So now you do not have that 30 gallons of water anymore. And then that water can only hold so much oxygen when that oxygen is being sucked out of it by that fish. And once that oxygen level in the water drops below 100% saturation, that fish is going to begin to slide into suffocation. And as that happens, I mean, think about yourself. If your airflow got cut off, there's only so long that you're going to be able to last before damage begins to occur. Whether it's a slow process or whether you get choked eating or something, and it's almost instant. But when you do not have adequate oxygen, the first thing that's going to suffer damage in your body is your brain. And what occurs in your live well is your fish, when that dissolved oxygen level in the live well drops below that 100% saturation point, those fish begin to suffer. And what they're suffering from and will eventually, what will occur is brain damage. And even though that fish is still moving and it's still attempting to breathe and it appears to be alive, well, it is alive at weigh-in, and there's no penalties for it. What typically happens, especially in warmer water conditions, that fish will normally die after that tournament within just a couple of days because it has suffered some permanent damage in its brain. And if you have, or if I have brain damage, we live in a civilized world. We have caretakers that can take care of us and we will continue to live. But in the wild, an animal that has brain damage is not going to survive. It's just simply not going to happen. And bass are no different. So when that fish gets released, it's been given its death sentence, even though the fisherman did not get a penalty. That fish is probably going to perish as a result of the lack of oxygen in that live well. So our product and an oxygen tank will do the same thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're the only product that can do this. An oxygen tank will do exactly what we do, but there are hazards that come along with a pressurized tank bouncing around or potentially bouncing around in a boat, because we all know what we put boats through when we get out on the water. Right. This is a product that does the same thing, but without that hazard. So that's why we believe that we could, we're such a good product for this market.
Yeah. So not only assisting in the angler one, that live well during the day of helping the health of that fish, but also being of benefit to the discussion when we call about delayed mortality, of being of benefit to that discussion, where it's essentially this product is helping the percentage of fish that go back.
Yes. Delayed mortality is something that the gentleman that you mentioned earlier, I promise you, it's something that is a discussion among them. It's something they think about a lot. Because if we do not figure out something to reduce delayed mortality, I I don't know what will happen to our sport. I do believe that one of the reasons that we see turnover on lakes, we'll use Gunnersville for example. You get, you know, several, I say several, 4 or 5 years of just fantastic fishing, and then you'll hit just a wall, and it's just you can't catch a sack on it that's worthy of the memories from yesteryear. It's just not there. And then it takes 2, 3, 4 years for that lake to seem to come back to what it once was. And I believe that that's because of overfishing and delayed mortality. And it just kills, because we're bringing in the best genetics in that lake every time we have a tournament. We don't bring in 5 dinks. We bring in the 5 best fish we can catch. And you do that over and over and over again, you're going to kill that lake. You're going to kill the genetics in that lake. And when you kill the genetics off, you're going to go through a down period where that lake, that fishery just suffers. You got to give it time to come back.
Yeah, and that fishery now too sounds like the anglers are gonna have to go to bat again for the whole spraying of the grass. It sounds like they're going through all of that again. And that's a whole different discussion. We won't get into here because we talked that actually with Mikey Balls Fishing, who was on the show. We had a whole show where they're trying to do that to our lake up here in KU. Well, they have been doing that to our lake up here, Cayuga Lake, which is probably one of the best in the country right now. And we talked about that and what's going on with Gunnersville. So don't get me started on that. We can go talk about grass spraying for another 3 hours and I'll get fired up. You guys won't get a word in. But yeah, I think I completely agree with you in the concept of delayed mortality is one that we do need to take more seriously, especially as tournament anglers. And I think especially specific trails, I think this can stem into a whole load of different discussion avenues where it's the live wells, the more anglers utilizing FishLung. It could be also the fact that we don't need to box 5 fish anymore. I think we've seen how the success of, say, let's take the Elite Series, for example, of the slot limit. When you look at the fork events where they bring in one that's over 24, it could be, you could create a slot limit for each lake where they're under, say, you can make it a moving target for the schedule where it's, Murray, you have 22 inches, or it's, up in the St. Lawrence, it's 19 inches, where if it's over there, you can bring them, but if it's under, let them go. That way you don't have to deal with the amount of fish that you're boxing. And then the ones you do box, they have more room and they have more oxygen because of FishLung.
Yeah.
So there's some improvements.
I think there's attempts in conservation that I mean, what you just spoke of, that's an attempt in conservation and to protect, that genetic line, and to ensure that we do have larger fish in the future to be able to fish for.
Well, that's also your breeder stock. Those bigger fish have got to.
That's right. You got to protect that genetic line to be able to have the future of fish like that, so that your future generations get that opportunity to fish for those larger fish. But because, man, the pressure. I mean, junior high. There's junior high tournaments now. I mean, you think about that. Junior high school, college, all the opens now, and this is just that's not counting your weekend anglers and your little clubs and your nighttime tournaments during the week. I mean, the pressure now is just incredible. So I think it's vital that we do something. We have to take responsibility as anglers for this resource that we have. We have to protect it. It's our responsibility to protect that resource. And we can't rely on an organization to do that. We better not wait on the states to do that, because it's not going to be good for us if they do.
Right.
So let's not wait on an organization to tell us what to do. I think it's best that as anglers that we take that step forward, and do it ourselves. I mean, if we don't, because I'm 55, our grandkids are not going to get the opportunities that we had. Uh, you know, you got a lot of days ahead of you to fish. And you got kids yet, Bailey?
No, sir. No, not yet.
All right, see, you want to protect these resources for when you do have kids. You asked us at the beginning of this show, what got you into fishing? And Mark and I both said our fathers. So, you want that opportunity. And I promise you this, because Mark and I are both grandfathers now. Man, it is fun to take your son fishing for the first time, but it's just something special to take your grandson fishing. That is a whole nother level. And you got a long time to go. So you want that opportunity. So we have to do something now. We're kind of in a time of, if we don't take accountability and responsibility for the things that we love right now, man, let's not leave it in somebody else's control, because it's not going to be pretty if they take it.
I'm with you on that. I think these are why these conversations are so important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one. I mean, there's a couple facets here where it's one, we need to hold the right people accountable. Two, it's the right groups. Us as anglers need to hold ourselves accountable in regards to if you're on the water every day, how you're treating those fish does have an impact, which is why, FishLung here is important, especially if you're talking being a tournament angler, or even if utilizing from the standpoint of if you're a live bait fisherman, or this product could be of advantage as well. Like there's a lot of different things we can get into here of what conversations need to be had and what conversations also need to be put into action. And that's a whole different rabbit hole that could take us hours and hours to talk through. And
I'll tell you what I compare this to. And I know this is maybe kind of a little weird and strange, but Mark and I remember a day when you drive down the road and there's trash on the side of the road everywhere. And that's because people rolled the windows down and threw the trash out, and it was acceptable. And that's just not right, and we finally got past that as a society where that's not acceptable anymore. Yep. And I think it's, in a way, it's kind of the same thing. It's time to take accountability and responsibility for what we do, and just stop doing something that's not good for our world. I've always been the type guy, if I'm fishing, even if I'm just fun fishing, I'm catching and releasing. If I catch one down in the gill, if I catch one down in his throat, and I injure that fish, and I release that fish, and I see him come back to the surface, and I see he's not going to make it, I'll go pick that fish back up, and we'll have fish for supper. I'm not going to let that fish go to waste. I feel like, I personally, my belief is that's a sin. So, and I try not to do, I just don't like doing that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from there too. And there's actually a big movement now. I shouldn't say big, but it's growing for more bass anglers specifically to practice keeping certain fish, especially a certain size fish, especially if you want to grow the size of your fish in regards to the size class of fish. So there's that happening. There's a movement of encouraging people to stop boxing their fish for simply a picture. Or if you're going to box your fish, it's most likely a tournament, or you're going to keep them, one of the two. And so I love seeing that happen. And I think that last discussion is we need to talk about, I think weigh-in tournaments are great. Don't get me wrong. I think having weigh-ins are great for fans. I think it gets people involved more of the live event itself, which I think gets more people excited about, specifically bass fishing. So I think those are imperative, but I think we can still have room to make those better. And that can come with either the slot, that can come with FishLung here. I think there's a lot of improvements. We talked originally a few weeks back I loved seeing what Icon was doing and strives for fish care on their boats. And I think this here with FishLung is a next step. And I've seen you guys have signed some anglers like Rob G. as well as some others that can help you guys lead this conversation and show the way for other tournament anglers, aspiring tournament anglers, that without the fish, there is no tournament fishing. So let's take care of the fish while we do so, which is you guys.
And Icon boats, yeah, I agree, man. They have they've done a lot, and I applaud that. I really do. I like their think outside the box method on what they're doing. I would love to see a FishLung and an Icon, because I think it would be a fantastic combination. Slick Johnson has an Icon, I think, and I think we're working with him to put one in his new one. So that'll be really interesting. And Mark, I'll let him talk on this, but he's always had a great point that even MLF guys, when you catch a fish, when you hook that fish doesn't know that you intend to release it. That fish is fighting for its life, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to put that fish in a tank of water that's at 200% oxygen saturation and let it recover before you release it, then that fish's chance of survival is probably going to be greater as well. Even if you temporarily hold that fish for 5 minutes and then release it, then you're giving it that similar to what an athlete on the sideline, a football player on the sideline, that just returned a kickoff for a touchdown. The first thing they do is they stick that oxygen mask on their face and suck in some oxygen, because their body will recover with a higher purity of oxygen than it would with that 20.9%. So that fish will recover quicker as well in a higher oxygenated environment, and then release it. That Mark is always, I've agreed with him on that. I'll let him talk a little bit about it.
Catching fish stresses them. I mean, it really does stress them out, and they need that opportunity to recover. And oxygen, like we said, is just the key to recovery for those guys. I mean, they've got everything else they need. They've got the water. They different fish take different levels of oxygen out of the water, but we put in a purity level that helps that fish and recover, and it saturates the water. It's not just blowing bubbles. It's actually putting super saturating the water to the point that fish can absorb it and use it, and so that's a big deal. And when I fish at night and stuff like that, I don't know, the jury's out on catch, weigh, release. I know everybody thinks that's better, but I don't know that it is.
We've had a couple of customers. Slick was one of them, and we've got another customer that they took fish that were in bad shape and put them in their live well with the FishLung running, and then let them sit in there for 10 minutes or so, and then pulled those fish out, and then re-released them. And those fish were able to swim off after that, as opposed to, beginning to turn up on their side. So that does lead you to believe that fish's chance of survival after getting that hit of oxygen, it does increase. We would love to do a lagoon study on that. Lagoon study takes, I'm pretty sure it takes state approval, and of course it takes money. So we would love to set up and work with local or state level officials to be able to coordinate something like that and find out and we may have to do it through a university, I'm not sure, but we would love to be able to do something like that and see what the survival rate is in fish, especially in the warmer temperatures, that have been in a FishLung live well versus a regular live well. Same boat type of deal. Say Ranger, so that you get a apples to apples comparison. I think that would be a very interesting test.
That sounds intriguing. So for people tuning in, what is a lagoon study?
Lagoon study would be a very controlled environment to where the parameters are set, and you could say, for example, you would be able to control that fish. I'm pretty sure they would have like a catch pen for them that they could put in and then monitor that fish over time, or possibly even tag that fish and see what happens over the next.
Texas A&M's done it.
Yeah.
They found that a fish over 5 pounds, and don't quote me on these numbers because it's been a while since I've read it, but a fish over 5 pounds, a very high percentage of those fish over 5 pounds caught in 80+ degree water will die within 3 days. And that was from a lagoon study they did. So that's, and I'm not sure if the lagoon was a pond on their campus, or if it was, they worked with the wildlife people and did a slough or something and boxed them or what. I'm not sure how they did it, but they just called it a lagoon study. And a lot of those fish a lot of those larger caliber fish in that hot water do die within 3 days. That's
it does seem to be the process of being caught and boxed does seem to be more detrimental to a larger fish than it does a smaller fish. But we correlate a lot of stuff to temperature too. There's a lot of, I think, misunderstandings about it. I'm originally from Mississippi, and I fished a lot of shallow water. And I have been fishing when it's 90+ degrees and the water temperature is 94, 95 degrees. And if I find lily pads, I'm in 2 or 3 foot of water and I'm gonna fish them because I'm gonna catch fish there. And it is incredibly hot, and you still catch fish. And so those fish are there. They're there because they're getting oxygen around that lily pad, and there's shade there. So a lot of people think that temperature has everything to do with it. It does and it doesn't. It's oxygen. It's what will hold oxygen. And if there's something there, even if it's hot water, that's putting oxygen in that water, those fish they'll stay there because that's where the bait's going to be.
Yeah, fish are cold blooded. They don't care what the water temp is. If it's
That's right.
If it's got a high concentration of oxygen, that's why you catch fish shallow early in the mornings around here, is because the photosynthesis and stuff creates turbulence or whatever in the water, and you've got higher oxygen content. That's where they are, and then they drift out deep or whatever in the heat of the day because that's over.
They don't look for they don't look for temperature. They look for oxygen levels as they go deeper.
So in the spring, when temperatures are rising in the water, it's because the temperature is from a certain, like in the shallower water, it's hotter, but the hotter water is creating more vegetation, which increases more oxygen. Am I getting that correct? And that's what they're looking for, not the temperature?
Yeah, because you got to look at the chain of life. What's occurring where that oxygen's at? That's going to bring in your smaller fish, and then your bait fish and such, and then your bass and your larger fish are going to follow in. But your insects are going to be in there. Everything where that oxygen is at is where the life is going to be.
That's freaking awesome. That's a dang nugget right there, because everyone's just like, oh, those fish want some warmer water. That's what they're going to be looking for.
They go to where that oxygen's at.
That's awesome. I've always thought about it as they just simply wanted something warmer versus colder, and then the summer it's vice versa. But I think that makes a lot of sense, though. It really does, because you see those like in the fall coming up here. It's if you can find that dying vegetation, whatever's left of it, it's usually where you're going to find the congregation of fish.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It works.
Yeah. So outside of, we hit on a little bit in regards to like live bait fishermen and stuff like that, but outside of, tournament anglers boxing fish, where does FishLung be an advantage to anglers?
Well, if you're carrying bait, we are working on systems that are specific for bait. Uh, there's not a one system fits all situation. We have found out that you can I don't want to say over oxygenate, but you can overly aggressive or over aggressively oxygenate, and the style of bubbles that you use and the flow rate that you use, and you can hurt bait that way. So we're testing. We're constantly doing a lot of testing to try to dial in delivery methods to customize that towards specific purposes. The FishLung itself, which you can go buy for your for your bass boat, that system is for bass, and we're trying to what we're trying to do is see what other species that we can use that system for. Uh, we're having some really good luck lately with crappie. Crappie's a tough fish to keep alive.
Mhm.
Most crappie fishermen, like my dad was, it's going in the skillet anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But if you are a crappie tournament guy, you got to keep them fish alive, and that is a tall task. Anybody that's ever fished for crappie knows that. So we've got a couple guys that are doing some testing for us with some specialized systems for that. Really cool results so far. But we're trying to branch out and do some more specific stuff, with the system, because it's got a lot of room to adjust and to dial it in for specific species.
Yeah, I mean, another one that jumped out to me, it's big too, is walleye, especially for
Yeah.
those northern and midwestern guys.
Yep.
But to your point, Mark, of talking about simply how much better that fish can be, simply putting it in the live well, say for 10 minutes at that oxygen rate and releasing back, how much beneficial it can be for them. What jumps out at me, while a small group, I think one that really takes fish care to a next level is muskie guys. Muskie guys, I didn't realize this until actually through work. I had to put together a muskie media trip, and one of the biggest things I learned is they actually have a movement where if like above a certain water temperature, they will not fish for muskie. It's apparently a big no-no. Like you can fish for them, it's legal to, but it's a big no-no amongst the community to fish for them because essentially if you catch them, they're dead. This can be the solution for that.
Yeah.
That's just something that kind of jumps to mind to me. Where they'll put them in the live well for a little bit. Usually I think they keep them in the net in the water, but this could be, they have live wells typically in the muskie boats. And muskie people listening, don't quote me because I don't want to speak out of line here. Some dumb bass head that's talking out of my butt. But I think in regards to that could be a great solution in regards to reviving muskie.
I didn't know that. That is interesting, and I'll tell you something else too. That's something that we are encountering over and over again. First off, I don't know if you know this, but fishermen tend to be kind of stuck in their ways.
You weren't kidding.
I'm not sure if you knew that, but we do tend to be a little stuck in our ways. We have traditions, and we have our own ways to do things, and it is hard to tell someone, "Hey, there's a better way." So that's been I don't want to say an uphill battle, but we're having to learn a lot of patience. Let's put it that way. So it'll take time. It takes education because
and we knew going in that the education side of it was going to be our biggest hurdle.
sure,
We knew that going in.
So what we're learning is there's a lot of different species and a lot of different techniques that are used for those individual species that we could potentially change the way that they do things. We don't know that yet. What we will need as we move forward in those specific areas will be those anglers that are willing to try something new, that are open-minded, and I'll give you a great example. Saltwater bait systems, your 35, 38, 40 foot charter boats and stuff, 70 gallons, 80 gallons, 100 gallons. They're pretty big systems. They're constant flush. They're constant water in, water out. So when we were doing some research on that, our initial response was, can we do anything there? Because our O2 is constantly going to be flushed out, right?
Right.
So we were concerned about that. We have reason to not be as concerned now, but we're working with some folks to maybe try something different. Why do you do that? Well, because you have to. Why do you have to? Because the bait will die if you don't. What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? Well, we never thought about it that way because they've never had an option to do anything but that. That's the only option they've ever had.
There's a lot of guys on the bass side too that believe in only recirc versus.
What if you can just seal it off, and then run it as a do like a bass boat, do a recirculation, but not a constant flush process, and then run your O2 level up in that system.
I like where your head's at on that.
It's going to take someone to think outside the box and willing to lose a tank of bait and see.
Yeah.
Or make them so lively they can't catch them.
That too. Well,
I think I'd rather have that. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's what we're shooting for anyway.
That's what we're shooting for. But the risk involved. If you try something different, you got to know the consequences of it. So, but fishermen are hard headed. I mean, I'm one of them, and I am that too. So, to get guys to think outside the box and do things differently from the way that they've done it for 30 years or 40 years, it is a challenge. But we'll get there. We will get there.
I love it.
Product's good.
That was going to be one of my questions too, because I know there's going to be comments about it. Is how easy is FishLung to install?
For someone that knows what they're doing, you can put one in a couple hours. Mark and I can throw one in pretty quick. We know the system, in and out, back of our hand. For the average guy, if you got a buddy, you can put one in 3 hours. But I will tell you this: we're constantly working on the system. If you're not working, if you own a product, if you have a product you're trying to sell on the market, and you're not constantly improving your product, you're already behind. So I'll tell you this: we're not behind.
That's awesome. So for someone that wants to go purchase it, they got to go to FishLung.com.
FishLung.com. We do have a small network of dealers. Most of them are in the Southeast right now. I think Luke is offering it. Luke Duncan is offering on his website as well. So you can go to FishLung.com and purchase one.
Perfect segue to our next show.
There you go. Well, I see his name right up there. So
yeah. Luke will be joining us. I mean, with that, I guess here's the perspective I'd love to give, because I know there's a lot of guys out there that can easily put the system in by themselves, purchase it, or boat owners. Let's take somebody like me, where I trust other people to put stuff into my vessel because I know I'm really good at breaking stuff and not installing it correctly. So say somebody like me, I go and buy a FishLung. What could be your recommendation? Taking it to like a nearest somebody that's like a boat dealer or that can rig it. What would be your recommendation? Because I know there'll be questions.
Just take it to your boat rigger and get them to do it. If they got any questions, they can call us. It ended up being me or Mark that answers that phone. It'll get transferred to one of us. We'll be glad to talk you guys through anything that you need. It is a really simple system. The biggest thing, and I'll say this, we put a lot of tubing in the system so that you can reach wherever you need to reach with it. That additional tubing does make it look intimidating. Don't let that intimidate you, because you're going to cut the overwhelming majority of that tubing off and throw it away. but we want you to have that additional tubing. We don't want you to be in a situation where you can't reach where you need to reach. So we put that in there. Don't let that intimidate you. It's a simple system.
If you can install a depth finder,
Radio.
if you can install pretty much a trolling motor or anything on your boat, this is no more complicated than that. I know some boat owner guys are pretty rough on themselves if they have to drill a hole in their new boat, but you have to drill a couple little holes to run some tubing here and there, into your live well, but it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
The wires.
The hole that you'll have to drill was a 1/4 inch hole, and you drill that above your water line. What we do is we drill it as close to the top of that live well as possible. When you feed that tubing through that hole, it will not leak because it's 1/4 inch OD. And as long as you drill a 1/4 inch hole and don't waller it out, that tubing will seal that hole shut. You ain't got to worry about it.
There you go.
You have to have one to leak. And so takes up space of about a battery, Group 27 battery. So it's not a lot of space. It's not real heavy. We did design a system for a bass boat. We designed it to be rugged and to be able to take abuse. So, and it is a permanent mount system. So we did design it so that when you put it in, it stays in until, if you can take it out if you swap boats, if you want to put it in a new boat, you can do that. But we put it in there and we intend it to last.
And obviously connects direct to batteries that you already have back there in that compartment.
Yep. You could put you a switch back there. What we like to do is we'll run a wire up to an accessory switch on the dash. That way the customer can control it from the dash. And we do have an optional Bluetooth switch that you can put on your dash, and then you just mount the controller for that back in your bilge area. And once you power up, they'll connect, and you don't have to run that wire up to your gun if you don't want to.
That's awesome.
And our system that's designed for bass boats is a 50% duty cycle, so it's only going to draw about 5 to 6 amps, which is right in line with a aerator pump, maybe less than an aerator pump. And so it's not a big drain on your system. It's not something you got to, well, do I need to cut this thing off, or do I need to, is it okay to leave it running? It's not going to affect it hasn't yet. We haven't seen anyone have any battery issues with running our systems yet. So, and that was on purpose,
Yep. 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. If it kills your battery, you had bad batteries. You needed to replace them.
So, the draw is very low.
Yeah. I have them. I'm constantly testing, and I run them on power supplies that are, that convert 110 to 12 volt, and I constantly watch the amp draw. And at peak amp draw, we're about 4.52, something like that. And then during the off cycle, it's milliamps. I mean, it's just enough to keep the LED lights running.
Awesome. So, I think if anybody is if you're serious about your tournament fishing, you're serious about your fish care, you're live, especially if you're a live bait angler, you need to be looking at this heavy.
Yes.
And what I'll do is for anybody that's listening or watching, the link direct down to FishLung is below the website. You guys can head right there and go grab yourself one.
Guys, if you got questions, call. We will love to talk with you. If you're in the area and you want to see one, we're in North Alabama. We're in the Huntsville area. We will be more than happy to show you a system.
Heck yeah. What we'll put your social media down there too if you guys are wanting to follow along with FishLung and some of the different activations you guys are doing. But definitely do so in regards to contacting you guys, and hopefully this show sparks some more questions too. That can lead to some further conversation.
Hey, you mentioned our pro staff, man. We are proud of our guys, man. What a awesome little pro staff we managed to put together. They have and most of those guys we didn't get until the second half of the season. But man, they put on a show, and not just that, they're just good people, and we're so proud of them.
Heck yeah.
Do
you have a list with you of who's all on the team?
We got. Now you're gonna put me on the spot. We got Rob G, of course. We got Logan Parks, Cody Huff, John Garrett.
Oh, you got the whole house.
Yeah. T. Willie, Tyler Williams.
Yep.
Kyle Patrick.
Yep.
Oh, that's a bad pick. He's a horrible.
We got Hunter Sales over in NPFL.
Yep.
And he's done exceptionally well this season as well. So,
did you say Jason Burrows?
Yeah, we got Jason Burrows as well, and then we've got a couple a little bit more local guys that we're also real proud of. Man, my brain is fried right now. Help me out here, Mark.
Who you thinking of?
Trey. We got Trey, man.
Swindle?
Trey is money. He is so good. I'm so impressed when he does his promos and he walks around that boat. I was so impressed. He walked all the way around it, and he mentioned every sponsor on that boat, and he thanked everybody, and he did it in one shot and never stuttered. And I thought, dang it, kid, how good do you have to be able to do that in one shot? I was just so impressed. And we've got Slick's son, which we don't have him yet, but we're hoping to have him. Yeah. And then we've got Ryan and Naya's son.
It's an impressive duo over there.
Yeah, both great young men. Another young man that we got here local is Bryce Kiesler. Good young man. Real proud of him too. So,
yeah.
If you haven't noticed, we do focus on the younger guys. We got John Cruz, and we also got Will Davis Jr. as well. Both of them been around a little bit longer. I would say that John Cruz is our statesman, surely. Very, very polished, great angler. Just
industry leader.
You just don't get any better. Just a fantastic spokesperson, angler, and just a even better person. And Will Davis as well. So, man, we're so proud of that group and what they've accomplished this season. We would be remiss if we did not mention them. So we definitely wanted to put a shout out to them.
Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, I saw the additions to the team, and it was pretty impressive. Our guys definitely noticed. We were talking about it internally. And I mean, I would say a little bit tentative on the house and Kyle Patrick. They're a little bit questionable. Those guys like to have a good time. We love those fellas. I don't know if you actually saw the show. We had the whole house on one show together.
Oh, really?
I wasn't sure what I was getting into with that, but yeah, we had them all on. I'll have to send you the link to it, Johnny, because it was quite the time we had on that show.
I bet it was.
Yeah,
I saw a portion of it. I didn't get to see it all, but I did see some of it.
It was a hoot. Yeah, I'll send you the link after this. But it was.
We do focus on the, I guess you'd say, youth movement, if you will. And the reason is because we feel like our target customer is going to be a younger angler, a guy that's got more fishing days out the front window than in the rear view. So we feel like they're going to be more apt to get it early, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're the future of the sport. We do offer a 15% discount to all students. That's junior high, high school, college. If you are a student and you want that 15% discount, all you've got to do is send us an email. All we need is a student ID so we can verify that you are indeed a student and you're not Uncle Bubba. We'll get you that 15% discount. And something else that we're very proud of is if you are military, veteran, or first responder, you also get a 15% discount. We're proud of that too. So
that's awesome.
We believe in trying to give back to those that have given so much. And we also believe in trying to help the future of this sport. And because they're the ones I think they're the ones that's going to lead this revolution in fish care. It's not going to be an old guy like us. I mean, like I said, we're the most hard-headed people walking the planet. It is what it is. Yeah. So we work with our young guys, and it's fun. I mean, it's just a blast. Those guys are great. So,
heck yeah. Well, gents, I think this has been awesome. I really appreciate one of you guys taking the time out to come on this show and educate the people and myself on FishLung and the benefits of doing so, and having a great conversation on some of the things we need to improve as anglers and stewards of fishing. I think you guys are helping lead the charge. And I think there's a great group, and you guys are amongst that group that's helping make the future of fishing a better place than it is now. And I think there's the right people. You guys are amongst those, and appreciate all the education for the people. We got some great nuggets today for the people that are tuning in, and I appreciate the time, guys.
Hey, we appreciate it. You know, we're honored to be invited on, and we appreciate the efforts that you're doing to spread the word, because it's a tall hill.
Yes, sir.
Yep. We started this thing off. Obviously, we want to make a living in the industry we love. We ain't going to lie. I mean, everybody wants to do that, right? I mean, who doesn't want to make a living in an industry that you love? That's the ultimate job. And we're no different. We want to make a living doing it. But what our mission is in this is to try to save fish and save these fisheries, and then make sure that this sport has a future. Because if we don't do something, something will happen, and we're probably not going to like it. That's just the world that we're headed into. You know.
Yes, sir.
Let's do something now while we have the chance.
I love that. Let's make it happen. Well, folks, again, just to reiterate, if you guys are listening to this, watching it, and you're looking to get one, you know, you're a tournament angler, you live bait, like we all mentioned throughout the show, the website to FishLung, as well as social media, is down below. You can just head below in the notes, click it, go right to the website, and get you one, and highly encourage you guys to do so. Fellas, appreciate the time again, and we'll be talking to you guys real soon.
All right. Sounds
Thanks
good.
a lot.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that show with Mark and John from FishLung. Some really great conservation conversation. I really tried to attempt those two words back to back. Either way, some great discussion with those guys talking about fishing conservation in general, especially when you're talking about if tournament fishing, you use live bait, use your live wells at all. You really should be looking into this. Really a great solution. They even talked about it with Gene Gilla, and they've seen the difference that this product can make. Signed a lot of pros that swear by this thing. I mean, even to the point where it's, you know, it's almost keeping fish too alive to make it's almost impossible to put them in the bag. I'm sure there's gonna be fish that are jumping out of live wells and into the lake because they're all hyped up on oxygen. But great show with them. Definitely one that we're going to be advocating for moving forward. And I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. Check out the link below, their social as well as their website to check out the product. If you'd like to get some, let us know if you do end up getting one. We'd love to see that we've helped push you guys in that direction. But great show with these guys. If you have not checked out all the different things going on Omnia as well, there's different savings that we mentioned at the beginning of the show. All the links are down below. You can check that out. And then quick note for you guys, if you listen to the Luke Duncan show that we did this morning, obviously that dropped this morning, you've already heard this already, but next week I'm on a work trip. I even screwed that up on the last episode. Work trip. I can't speak today, guys. I am so sorry. It's just a bad week to be Bailey. So I'm out all next week on a work trip. I'm going to be gone and back on the following Monday. So we should have a Tuesday Night Live. Not next week, but the week following. So we might have no show next week. Otherwise, we'll have a pre-recorded or Andy will go live without me. One of the two. We're going to figure it out. Just want to give you guys a heads up that it might be another weird week for us here at the Serious Angler Podcast. But as always, folks, appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.